Hello and welcome to Paxton Road TV. I am Sam, Spurs for Life, and this is Talking Points, our weekly magazine show where we wrap up or talk about all things Tottenham. And we've had a lot of things to talk about over the weeks, as we all know. And today's subject, it's a bit of a controversial one. Kane or Son, who is more important to keep for Spurs if, and I'm only saying this out there for people watching, I'm not saying I want to get rid of any of these players, but if we had to lose one, who would you prefer to keep? We are joined today by our super special guests in the house, residents Mike-Hotspur Hustler, Darius3k, Spurs, and our newly crowned member of the team, Spursy141, aka Jody. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the stream. How are we doing?
It's good. Is that a 4-year contract, Jody? Is that a 4-year contract with an extension, 1 year extension on
17 mil.
17 mil. Yes.
Yes.
Have you got full control? Full control, yeah?
Yeah.
This is what Spurs does to. She's even demanding 17 mil a year already. Wow.
And Harry Kane to stay.
Harry Kane to stay. We will be having more and more shows coming in the future. You may have seen our 7:30 preview of Sid Spurs, and then there will be Judge Jody in the coming weeks, where we will be, Jody will be looking at player rate. Hold on a minute, Sid. Stop trying to plug yourself all the time. Jesus Christ. I'm plugging Jody on this one, so she's going to be coming up with a brand new show where we'll be doing player ratings as the season progresses. I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, let's get on with this. As you can see down in the bottom, Kane or Son, who is more important to keep for Spurs? I'm looking at this season. We've got some graphics and stats to look at, but I guess this is more a case of who we think. I'll start with myself because I'm obviously a massive Kane fan. I'm a massive Son fan. If I was to be asked the question who I think is the more talented player, and this might sound controversial, I think it's Son. I've seen him score some worldies. He's the sort of player that excites the crowd. He gets people off their feet. That goal he scored against, I think it was Villa, that got the Puskas Award for the goal of the year. Magnificent. Burnley, that was it, not Villa. Burnley, same colour kit. That's what it was. Took the ball from our box into theirs and scored. He's scored a number of worldy goals against Arsenal, against massive teams. But Kane is a machine. Harry Kane is literally a machine. And the stats back that up. Everybody's saying he was a one-hit wonder in the season 14 to 15. That soon got dismissed. And he's been consistent ever since to this point, having probably his best season this season, or last season, should I say, in terms of goals and assists. The dynamic duo, as they were called, combined to score a whole hatful of goals. And if we were to lose one of them, who might be the one that you would say you'd rather go? Now, again, not saying we want to lose any of them, and I hope both of them stay. Son hasn't quite signed his contract yet, although there's all the talk of that being signed. So if he doesn't, he's due to leave 2023. Harry Kane, 3 years, 2024. I'm going to start with Mike-Hotspur Hustler. I know it's a difficult one, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, and I know all the questions and grilling we're going to get from comments. However, who, if anybody, had to go, would you rather see go? Mr. Hotspur Hustler, take it away.
Oh, mate, what a question here. Who would I rather see go? I'd rather not see any of them go. If
standard answer, that is a standard answer to start with every time for everybody.
Yeah, I don't want to see either go. Who's more valuable to the club right now? It's got to be Kane, hasn't it? Really. I mean, his goals and his assists speak for itself. Although I do love Son. I love what he brings to the team. This is difficult. I can't choose. I mean, the only thing with Son is if you go back on last season, his form dropped off. And we did suffer a little bit from what we expect him to bring to the team and what he actually brought to the team during that period that he wasn't firing all cylinders. And although his work rate may have been there, and his desire may have been there, and he obviously his will to get the team over the line, etc. He just wasn't producing the goods. Whereas Kane, if he's not scoring, he's assisting. And
that was last
for
season,
me.
I remember.
And I'm just going based. I am basing this on purely just last season. And I think if you go on the basis of that, if Kane's not scoring, but he's assisting, creating chances, and setting up his teammates, that in itself has surely got to be more valuable to the team than Son playing. But if he's not assisting or scoring, well, if you go on the basis of what's more valuable, then it will be what Kane brings.
Go on then. Put you on the spot. I'll put you on the spot. You've wandered around the issue. You skirted. Come on now. You're on the spot here, Mike. Let's go with it. Let me hear you.
I'm going Kane.
You're keeping Kane or selling Kane?
I'm keeping him.
Oh,
I don't like this. But I'm keeping him.
I don't like it either. But we've got to do it. It's got to be done. Okay, so we're
Kane.
keeping
Kane.
Oh,
I'm going keeping Kane.
You've given a good overview, good synopsis on that. Jody, aka Spursy141, you're next in the position to answer the question initially. Off you go. Let's hear you.
Oh man, this is harder than watching Spurs play last season. I mean, they're my dream team as well. These guys were the reason that I won my fantasy league last season. I had Son and Kane in from the very beginning, and they gave me like so many points from the start. So I think for me, if we didn't have all those Kane like leaving rumors, I would definitely say Kane 100%. But I think we all kind of know where his head's at the moment. I mean, I know, we'll get a lot of money for him if we were to sell him. Also, like, I guess let's be honest with Kane is we're not going to win the league if he stays. I think with Kane, it's like, let's start building a team that we can kind of look to challenge when like we're ready in a few years' time. So I think like for me, Kane is at his most valuable right now. I'm on the Son
you're doing
wagon.
another Mike. You're doing another Mike
no,
here.
I'm on the Son wagon. I'm on the Son wagon.
Jesus Christ.
I think Son is just super loyal, and you can see it in his face when he plays. He seems to just love the club so much. When the team like don't step up, he just looks really disappointed. I think getting rid of Kane would allow Son to like make an even bigger name for himself. So I'm actually thinking keep Son, sorry. Sane.
Keep saying as well.
You're trying to keep both of them. So you combine the names. I like that. Keep Sane.
Keep Sane.
That's a good one. I like that. So you've got two players combined.
Son for me, 100%. I'm on the Son.
This is going to be a good one. I'm not going to say mine quite yet. Sid, before I come to that, I'm going to come to Sid first. Sid's cleanly shaven. Sid, I like that. I like that. It's clean.
Give you some competition.
Sid, what's your thoughts?
Right. Again, basing on last season, Son was a bit disappointing. He started off quite well and then he sort of filtered away, and I think he sort of lost motivation. Managerial changes as well. That combination of Kane and Son, it was always to me to you kind of thing where one helped the other and scoring goals and everything. But for me, in this current situation, with all this speculation with Harry Kane, don't forget Son's not signed his contract yet, but he's just kept in the background. Nothing's been said about him. He's just quietly carrying on, biding his time. Whereas is Kane going? Is he staying? Blah 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 blah. For me, Kane is a massive asset. 150 million. If you listen to what Ramon Vega was saying, 200 million. If we can get that kind of money for him now, I'd get rid. I don't want to get rid of him. I don't want to get rid of Son either. But if the push comes to the shove, we'll get more money now for Kane than we would for Son. And Son next season can do a good job, if not a better job than Kane, because his work rate, he scores, he assists, he gives 150% every game to Tottenham. You can tell it's in his blood, sweat, tears, everything is Tottenham. So if it comes to the shove, I'd say take the money for Kane, go and buy one or two extra players, keep Son and make him the world beater, which he can become.
Very good reasoning. And you may see in the background that Sid's got some little white flies, whatever. That's Sid's angels. That's only because that's only the stream. It's just like a little bit of,
No, it's not. It's my angels.
I know it is. That's what I said. It's your angels.
Charlie had his. Now
we can see them. You might not be able to see them, but we can see them.
That's right. That's right.
Darius, I'll come to you. So we've got Son, we've got Kane. Are you saying Kane, sell Kane and keep Son then, Sid? Is that your final thought?
I'm saying get the dosh for Kane, and keep Son. Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Darius.
I'm not having none of this so far.
You're not going to like what I'm going to say either then.
Oh, he's not going to like this. Oh, he's not liking this. I can see it in his face.
Yeah, I think, like I said, Spursy and Sid, 2 points that I was going to make, you guys have made. One, Son seems like he wants to stay a lot more. And two, Kane's worth a lot more. But not only that, I think when you're making this decision, I think you have to apply all the context given. I think Kane being with 3 years left on his contract, not looking to sign another one, has to be mentioned. And I think that he is a phenomenal striker. He's an unreal striker who scores a lot of goals and has now included assists in his game. But with the money that you can get for him, you can, how do I say this? You can replace his goal output with 2 or 3 players potentially with that money that you get. If you have 150 to 200 million, you can buy 3 players of very, very, very good quality. You could probably maybe replace 40 goal involvements in a season. That's a lot of goal involvements, but I expect 3 players worth 60, 70 million pounds to maybe be able to do that. So I wouldn't be against Kane leaving. And that's my reasoning for also saying Kane. I also think that at the current situation that we're in, I think that Son's skill set, while it might to some people not be as good as Kane's, I think it's way more unique than Kane's. I think that Son is the best finisher. I think he's a better finisher than Kane. I think he's more efficient. I think if you give Son,
hold tight.
I like this one.
I think Son is a more clinical finisher than Kane. I think if you gave Son 100 shots, Kane 100 shots, Son would take them. Also, I also think that Son, the hard work is a thing for me. I think the pressing and the pace and the hard work is so key. I think he shuts down players so energetically. It almost causes mistakes. And I'm not saying that Kane doesn't do that, but it just seems like Kane's almost losing his pace a little bit. And that if you don't evolve your game, which he is doing, don't get me wrong, but if you don't evolve your game, you're going to get caught out in the Premier League by not being a quick striker. So that, given his injuries as well, the fact that I think he's one more injury away from his ankles really going, and also the fact that he's on, he seems to be on his mindset seems to be at a different club. I just think that all those reasons for me should suggest that Kane would be the better option to sell. I'm not saying that I don't like Kane, like we said, but context given, I think that Son is a better option to sell.
I'm going to have to let Mike speak before I say my little bit.
You crack on, Sam. Don't disappoint me.
Okay, right. All right. Okay. Before we get to some comments, right. So far we've got Mike for
by the way, hold on, Sam. If you say who I think you're going to say, I'm going to cut the stream.
Oh, shit.
You guys are kidding me this evening.
Right, okay. I'm going to try and give it again. I'm going to start with the caveat. I don't want either of them to go. Both world-class players. I don't care what anybody says. Both world-class players. Different skill sets. However, okay, I'm touching on a few things. In terms of a player that I think potentially could flourish a bit more if Kane wasn't there. Now, Kane's always going to be the center of attention in our team. It goes without saying. We bring in forwards, they never get a game. We bring in this player, they never get a game because of Kane. And even when Kane's injured, they still don't want to play the forwards. So I think Kane's focalness within our team is such that it detracts from certain other players. Now, I know that Son and him have played very well this season, but I almost see Son as, if he's given that license to be the man, I can see him going on a little bit further. I can see him pushing on potentially to do a little bit more, not just in the goal scoring aspect, not just in an assist aspect, but that just getting you off your seat, that beating a player, beating a couple of players, scoring them worldy goals. Again, numbers don't lie. So Harry Kane's numbers cannot be underestimated in any way, shape, or form. But I believe that Son's numbers could potentially be just pushed a little bit further if he was the main man and given a few more players around him, like Darius has touched on, like Jody and Sid has touched on, I think if you buy a couple of players in terms of goal scorers, let's say you get a Danny Ings. Now, his goal scoring rate's not going to be at 20 to 25 per season at Spurs, but potentially 15 to 20 being a number 9 if he stays in the number 9. Son, maybe add another 5 goals on, maybe add a few more assists on. And the reason I'm saying that is just because, overlay, sorry for those viewers at home who are short-sighted, because I'm really short-sighted, but this is Darius. This is down to Darius.
I'll take full blame for that. I
He's
apologize.
having the blame for this one. Anyway, goal up, we can see if we go from the bottom upwards, Son has steadily improved, could we say, in terms of both goals and assists. I know Kane's had a phenomenal assist record this season, but the injuries taken into account that, I'm going to say it, Mike, and I know you're not going to like it.
I'm going to say, go on.
If I had to push,
Go on.
I'm selling Kane. If we get the money for him.
Thing
We
is,
get the right money for him. There we go. I said it now. It's off my chest.
you lost me
Go
as
on.
soon as you mentioned Danny Ings.
I know, right?
You guys are killing
Yeah,
me.
you
this
didn't- you
evening.
didn't
Is this
really
all
have your
about-
point.
More
You didn't have your
injuries.
cause there.
Danny Ings or Harry Kane?
Are you guys all lined up this evening?
All
Are
right.
we saying?
Okay, can I also...
Hold on.
Let Mike say his piece.
Hold on, guys.
Go on, Mike.
Hold on.
Go on,
Are we
Mike.
saying, right? Are we saying that Son is more valuable to Spurs than Harry Kane? Because I can't have that.
Context
sorry.
is needed. I think context is needed.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is context.
Yeah.
Because if you've got the country's best goal scorer, the high. I mean, let's not. How many times has he won a Golden Boots in the last 7 or 8 years?
This is his third
I
one.
think this is like third or fourth, isn't
Yeah.
it? How many times in a season, or should I say, what's the period of injury or the length of time he's out with injury in a season? It's normally he plays 7 out of the 9 months, and yet he's still getting top goal scorer.
Mhm.
Son, he's never, ever, 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 ever reached.
Okay, I'll give you an example of that,
He's
Mike.
Darius.
So,
Go on then, Darius.
Cristiano Ronaldo and Karim Benzema. That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Cristiano Ronaldo and Karim Benzema, both together, unstoppable. When Cristiano Ronaldo left, Benzema had more responsibility in that Real Madrid team, and he took that responsibility and he scored the same amount of goals, and people could see the value that he had to that team. And I'm not trying to say that Harry Kane isn't more important or more valuable to the club, because I think that Harry Kane, in terms of being that idol, that sort of person who came from the academy, that the academy players can look up at and see he's a guy to be like, and also just the attitude and the work ethic, everything about that is Harry Kane is needed at Tottenham. But I keep saying context is needed. And also just on the assists and the goals, I personally don't think you're going to see an assist season like that again. I think that was very particularly on the Jose system. I think really and truly, if you look at the numbers, Kane scores 30 goals, 29, 25, because he's in that box being a nuisance. And when Nuno takes in charge, well, Nuno has taken charge, when he wants to play 2 up front or 1 up front, he's always got that focal striker in Jimenez. So I don't think he's going to have somebody dropping off into those number 10 areas to sort of pick up the ball. So I don't really, the assist is not what I'm bothered about. It's the goals scored and also the fitness and the injury problems. The reason that we probably haven't won cups is because he hasn't been featured in those cups, because he's been injured, because obviously we save him for the Premier League games. Because if I actually looked at his stats, his appearances in the Premier League normally stay around 29 to 35. So it's not actually that bad. It's the injuries make him unable to play in the cup game.
I'm going to ask a question, and I'll ask Jody first. Do you think Harry Kane's going to play the same way potentially this season under Nuno as he did last season under Jose? I don't think he would personally, but what's your thoughts on that?
I agree. I don't think he will at all. I think given, the injury stuff as well, I think he's on his last legs. We've seen him. No offense to Harry Kane, but
he's not quite on his last legs, Tony. Come on now, bloody hell!
I think he's one injury away from a big one, though. Honestly,
that's what I mean. Exactly. Like, I think we've seen him in the Euros. He's apart from the last match, but his head's not in it. He looks injured to me. Like, the first couple of matches that we saw in the Euros, he just wasn't himself. And I don't think it was just an emotional thing. I think there's some kind of injury lingering there. And I just feel like he is potentially one injury away from a major catastrophe for us.
Or it's fatigue.
Or fatigue
as well, yeah.
Emotional drainage, I'm not sure. But I don't think he'll play the same way under Nuno as he played for Mourinho, because the passion, I don't think is going to be there either for playing for a manager like Nuno. No offense, obviously, I'm all there for Nuno, but Jose Mourinho is another level, isn't he? So I just don't think he's going to have the same passion to play under Nuno as he did for Jose.
So do you think we're going to get the same goal output, even if he's changed his game? Let's say he's not that number 10 and number 9, which he's been playing for England and for Spurs. Because I think for England, it kind of shows me, I don't think he needs to do that. I think for Spurs, he's kind of fell into that thing. Jose maybe encouraged that. For England, I've seen him doing that, and we don't need him to do that. When he gets in and around the box, we know he's going to score. His goals for appearances record shows that. He's phenomenal in terms of that record. But I want to see him, particularly as he's getting older, particularly as he has potentially more injury prone. I want to see him in and around that number 9 area, just scoring them goals, like how he first came onto the scene. Do you think that's what we might revert to come this season under Nuno?
I think last season there was a lot of games where I was watching it and I was screaming at the screen because he was our number 9, right? His position should be in that penalty box, attacking, scoring goals, like you're saying, Sam. A lot of the times last season, and even for England in the Euros, he's dropping too far back, right? And there's times where when he's got the ball, it should be him in the box waiting to receive that ball, if you know what I mean. Not him delivering the balls. And now he's getting older. It's like what Darius is saying as well about his injuries. He's maybe one away from a potential serious injury. So rather than doing all the running around, we all know how good you are. We all know you're best at assisting and this, that, the other. No, this season now, and Nuno should say to him, you know what, you're my number 9. If he stays, stay in that box, put the fox in the box, and just grab them goals. Forget your worldly from outside the area. You can do that every now and then, but your main priority is stick in that box and score as many goals as you can. Hopefully, he may not get the injuries as well, but he tries to do too much. And Teddy Sheringham, prime example, weren't it? He started dropping deeper and deeper, and then he became more like a number 10 behind the striker, where he was producing more and more because he had that technical brain. He's got that. So maybe in 2 years' time, maybe he can then drop back, get a better striker up top and play it. But as it is now, he has to be that number 9 now, fox in the box. Because there's how many goals has he actually scored where he's got literally tap-ins? Not many.
Yeah.
And that's what he'll do. That's what you have to do at City. Sorry to interrupt you. That's the sort of role he'll have at City. He won't need to be a creator at City.
No.
If he does go to City, he's going to have so many players around him to do that job for him.
I'm just going to read this comment out from Boy from the Lane. I don't want Mike to, because he's Boy from the Lane's on your page, Mike. No way Sonny needs Kane. Kane can do everything on his own if needed to. Welcome back, Boy from the Lane. I know you've been doing some work and you've been studying, but it's always a pleasure to have you on the stream. So welcome. Mike, your compadre, Boy from the Lane, I think is in agreement with you. Do you think he's going to play the same way this season? How do you see his game under Nuno developing, or do you think we're going to detract from the 9 and 10 aspect of him when we see him play this season?
I don't think he'll play as a 9 next season. I think he only played as in that sort of 9/10. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I don't think he's going to play in the number 10 role next season. I think he played in that 9/10 role this season just because that was the way Mourinho's sort of style, tactics that were used sort of affected his game, and that's how he was asked to play. And to be fair to him, he got the most assists as well as the most goals. Something obviously worked last season for him personally. However, I don't think Nuno, from the strikers that Nuno's had and the tactic that he deploys, I don't think we'll see Kane in that number 10 role. I think you'll see him much as the way he has been used for England in the last couple of games. He's been further forward, hasn't he? In a true number 9 role. And I think that's what he's just got to get used to. He doesn't need to be, if we've got a true number 10, he doesn't need to be dropping back.
I was just going to ask that question then, Mike. Do you think that if that is the case, then do you think that we do need to go in the market and look for another creative midfielder to help with that chance creation, or do you think that we can do it with the players that we've got?
I think we've got Ndombele. He can play 10, and he has all the ability to be probably one of, if he's fit, he's got all the ability in the world to be one of the best. Yeah. truly do believe that. I think he's, from a technical perspective, I think he's got everything. He just needs to be fit, and that's what I think he lacked last season. I just think he didn't have that fitness that you'd expect for a Premier League player playing in the middle of the park. But if he's got Ndombele and Ndombele's firing, which for him is going to be an important pre-season for him, to sort of,
well, he's not at the Euros, so he should
exactly. So he should have there's no real excuse. But this is where Kane, if you've got a true number 10 or a player like Ndombele who can play in that number 10 role, Lo Celso can play number 10. There's other players that can play in number 10, but if he sorts himself out, then perhaps. But if those players in that number 10 do their role, there should be no reason for Kane to drop back. Keep him as the number 9. Keep him as a true centre forward. Feed him, and he will score goals. I don't think there's going to be many strikers that are going to score goals as many goals as him. So
I totally agree with that. I think
he's more valuable than Kane.
Right. So I'm going to, before we continue, we're doing a shorter show tonight. But what I want to ask just before we go, because it's obvious that both the players are, I think, invaluable to us. I think the goal output from Kane speaks for itself. I keep saying that. But it's more and more, if you're pushing me to say who's likely to go, it's likely to be Kane. So if we get an offer, and I'm going to ask all of you, what is the sort of offer that would convince you, if you were Daniel Levy, to sell? Jody, you're first. I get on there. What value? What are we looking at?
I mean, nothing less than 150 mil for me. I mean, like it potentially could be less, knowing Daniel Levy. Well, I mean, 150. I think for me.
150. Sid, if you had to, and we had to put a price on him,
definitely not 200. I even think 150. I mean, Sancho's just gone for 73, right? They started off at 105, so he's gone down to 73. So that's a 32 million deficit within 6 months. I don't think City will pay 150. I know we're valuing him at 150, but I don't think we'll get 150. I think 120 might be realistic, but we're not going to get 150. I say about 120 it might be realistic.
Darius, that a push? What's your thoughts?
I got like 3 kind of different answers. So what I would expect, 150. Like, I agree with Spursy 141, 100%, 150 minimum. If he wins the Euros 200, I don't care what anyone says. If he lifts that trophy, put 50 mil on there. And then realistically, I probably could see him accepting like 120 with like 15 million easy add-ons, and then like 5-10 million with like, if City win the Champions League, the league, and he's top goal scorer. That's sort of like difficult add-ons to reach. And then you somehow get to 150 like that. I could see something like that happening. But for me personally, minimum 150. It has to be minimum 150, because I don't think that you can replace goal output with that, with less than 150 mil, if that makes sense. I don't think you'll be able to get enough players to replace 150 mil worth of Kane.
I'm going to ask Mike last. I'm just going to say my bit. I think personally, if you're going to sell him this season, and I don't think they will, potentially, I think he's got to be around about the 120 to 150. The reason I say that is because we're not forced to sell him. So nobody should be able to, unless the player says he don't want to play anymore behind closed doors and says he's done. That's the only way you're forced to sell him. If not, I think you sell him for the between the 120, 150, which I don't think anybody's going to come in for. The problem with that is he's then going to roll into next season. I don't think he's signing a new contract. He's then down to 2 years. Then it's more negotiable. Will he then stay for 2 years and go on a free? I don't think so. So I think that's going to be the point come the summer transfer window next season, that it's a big decision to be made. He'll be 29 by then. He may have a great season. He may have an injury season. I don't know. And this is the point. It's massive on Kane this season. But if you're pushing me to sell him in the summer, between 120 and 150 mil. Mike, you're going to have the final say on this. What you telling me? What are you telling me?
If he wins the Euros, 200 million easy. I wouldn't even barter. I wouldn't even just no nonsense. If you want to buy him, if he wins the Euros, give me 200 million, or don't even enter discussion with me because I don't want to hear it.
It's adamant.
Adamant. I mean, we're talking about a player that is consistently the Premier League's top goal scorer. So that comes at a price. And if Sancho is going at 73 million, I mean, Kane's twice the player he is. So yeah,
I think that's a bit of a snip for Sancho. I can't lie to you. I think 73 million is a pretty good
That's a
deal.
bargain.
I think that's a pretty good deal. Seeing how we played against
bargain.
Ukraine, I think people will see that's a bargain.
Yeah. If Kane doesn't win the Euros, 150 million, I wouldn't accept anything less. But me personally, I'd be like 100. I'd probably say 160, 170, just because he means that much to us. And if he has one good season for us, and we do manage to win something, and then he goes next season for less than, I don't know, for half that, then I'd take that on the chin and just be like, yeah, you know what, we've got a trophy or a couple of trophies. If we only accept it, if we only got 70 million for Kane the following season, I'll take that on the chin and be like, yeah, fine. But that's between 150, 170. If we win the championships on Sunday, give me 200 mil. Cough up or don't even enter discussion with me.
I like it. Guys, as I said, we all want to go and watch the second half of Italy versus Spain. It's been a pleasure. Mike, Darius, Sid, and of course our new special guest, who is resident in the house as well, Spursy 141 AK.
Mikey, just a quick one. Have you seen the latest video on Twitter?
Which one?
Son in a black leather jacket with a guitar singing "Baby, I'm Your Man" to Daniel Levy.
No, I haven't. But
sorry, Darius, it's a one. You might not know this one.
Jesus Christ! Oh,
search it, Darius. Search
it. Oh man! Let me give a thing. If you can, please hit that like button. If you're watching, if you're new to the channel, also subscribe to us. We have lots of new content coming out, and as you can see, we've got some real beautiful guests on here. I'm including myself in that. I'm really going to include myself in that. But we have some very, very good content coming up. Season's obviously starting soon. We've got a new manager. We should be looking and focusing on the team. We've had a lot of turmoil throughout the summertime, but I think it's time to get behind the Spurs. So like, subscribe, share, comment. Please help us out. Paxton Road TV. Look out for all these guys on various other shows on our stream. Shout out as well to the Man United Agenda and the Armory TV, FTB Sports. We're all associated. And breathe. Now let's go and watch some football. I think we've got one more comment here. I just thought, when we win the Euros, next year we are at least winning that Conference League, Farmers League. Any thoughts on Delhi comments? We'll leave Delhi for another day.
Let's not talk about that, guys.
Let's talk about Delhi.
Come on, leave on a high. Leave on a high note.
Let's talk about Delhi.
You're a fan of his, and we're not talking about him now. We're going. We've had enough. I've had enough of Delhi. Tell you that much. He can go, and he can go for a tenner. No, I'm only joking. Not quite that bad. Not quite that bad. Anyway.
Did you not?
Sid, no, we're saving it. I'm not going to let you say nothing.
Did you not read that GLC? Anyway, listen. Sid says transfers up to date ones. Give me a shout.
It's coming home, guys.
Oh, Jesus!
Have you seen the banner in the stadium?
No.
The Italian fans have got "It's coming Rome."
Let's go and watch the second half. Anyway, guys, thank you very much all. We'll see you later.